Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we'll recap the movie Last Survivors, released in the year 2021. In a mountain range with a deep forest, Troy lives with his son, Jake. They have been living there for a very long time to escape the chaos caused by the war in the cities. Jake has spent most of his life there and is unaware of the modern world. He has a good relationship with Troy and feels grateful that his father is well prepared to survive the war. They have everything they need in their small cabin: a smoker to cook their raw food, weapons such as guns, rifles, and axes, and a first aid kit, along with other things essential for survival. At night, Jake dreams of the night they escaped the city. There was chaos, and a man was pleading with them to let him in their car. However, Troy tells him not to look at him and assures him that they're going to be okay. He wakes up and tells Troy about his dream, but he tells him that they should focus on the future instead of the past. While doing their chores, the two hear a gunshot in the woods. Both of them get armed, but Troy tells Jake to stay in the house and protect their belongings while he goes to the woods. While Troy scans his surroundings, a man with a shotgun discovers a tripwire and inspects it with his hands. Meanwhile, Jake decides to go to the woods after he hears another shotgun, thinking his father is in danger. However, he only sees Troy dragging a body across the snow. Troy instructs him to bury the body so he can clean up. Back in their cabin, Jake notices that his father is bleeding, but he tells him to focus on his task instead. Jake approaches the body and notices that he's wearing a crucifix necklace. He gets surprised when the man asks him to relay a message to his daughter that he loves her, and then passes away. That night, Jake dreams again of the time his father killed a guy and was burying his body. The next day, Jake goes to his hiding place, where he stores the things he salvaged from the outsiders. He skims through the magazine and stares at the girl on the page. After that, he comes home to his father, who is visibly in pain. A little later, Troy passes out on the floor. He then gives him instructions on how to use the first aid kit. While listening to his father moan in pain, Jake reminisces about the night he brought him to their cabin for the first time and discovered that his mother is dead. He told him that he will protect him until the day he dies. Jake goes to check on his father. Troy tells Jake that the antibiotics have expired and gives him the keys to get a book. Jake complies and retrieves the book containing a map of where to get the medicine. He is shaken by anxiety, as he's been sheltered his whole life, but hides it and tells his father that he's ready. Troy reminds him once again to shoot anyone he crosses path with, even women and children. He stays cautious during the whole trip and readies his gun whenever he feels unsafe. The next day, he finds a woman by herself. He readies his aim but fails to kill the woman. He finally reaches the abandoned medicine store but hides immediately when he senses that someone is inside the building. However, it's just the woman he saw earlier scouring the place. After making sure she is gone, he heads on his way home and brings the medicine to his father. Troy asks him if he met anyone outside, and Jake tells him about the woman in the medicine place, but lies that he shot her. Moments later, Jake goes to his hiding place to burn the picture of the woman he saw in the magazine, and goes to their supplies room to bury the meat jerky under the snow. He did this so Troy could send him again to get some supplies, and he could see the woman again. So he did. The woman gets surprised when Jake trespasses into her home and holds her at gunpoint. Jake asks her if she's with someone, and she answers that she's alone. She then asks him what he is doing inside her house. Jake tells her that he came to meet her. She tells him that her name is Henrietta. She offers to have his clothes dried and have a shower while she prepares food. Henrietta is about to use the radio to ask for some help, but stops when she hears Jake complain about the hot water. She instructs her on what to do, and then sneaks and gets his rifle. However, she makes a noise and alerts Jake. He gets a pocket knife and threatens Henrietta that he could still kill her. Henrietta tells him that she will return the gun once he leaves. Finally, Jake settles, and Henrietta gives her some freshly made chili soup. While eating, Henrietta tries to get to know him better and discovers that his father doesn't want to contact outsiders. She invites him to stay the night and takes home a lump of frozen deer meat with him. He comes home the same day, and Troy asks him why it took him so long. He also gets suspicious when he sees how cleanly cut the deer was, so Jake reasons that he used a saw he stole from the farm. Troy still couldn't help but feel that something was off. Meanwhile, Henrietta goes to the local police station to report what happened, but reiterates that she will not be pressing charges. The policemen tell her that they don't have enough manpower because they're already busy enough with other heinous crimes. She then tells them about their names and leaves her number in case they want to call her for information. Since he is missing her chili soup, Jake adds dried chili peppers to their dinner. Jake mentions something that he saw in a National Geographic magazine. Knowing that he hasn't shown him anything like that, Troy asks him where he got this. Jake has no other choice but to confess and show his secret place. Troy scolds him for keeping stuff from him, so Jake argues that his father hides things from him too. Troy feels that Jake is feeling guilty about killing the woman. The next day, Troy finds the meat jerky that Jake has hidden and punishes Jake by making him clean the floors. The two immediately get into a heated argument when Jake confronts him about lying about what's happening outside. Troy tells him that he doesn't have a single clue about the outside. To prove him wrong, Troy leaves to bring Henrietta back to him. He waits for her to come back with freshwater mussels. They bond over making fire and start to grow closer. Later that night, they get intimate. The next morning, Jake invites her to come home with him. But Henrietta thinks that things are going too fast, since the two of them had just met. She sends him away, so Jake gets upset. Unknown to them, Troy is spying on them and is in disbelief to see that his son lied to him. Later, Henrietta goes to the police station. The policeman then tells her that a certain Troy kidnapped his son and attempted to murder his wife and gives her his license. However, Henrietta couldn't identify him, as she had never met Troy. She also sees a missing person poster and takes it with her. Moments later, she's in the local pub, where she meets her ex-husband. He mocks her for choosing to live in nature, so she tells him she never wanted to live in the city because she thinks it poisons the purity that people are supposed to have. Jake sneaks and hides inside Henrietta's truck. He discovered that there is no war or chaos outside the woods, and everyone lives peacefully. As he walks, he sees Henrietta inside the diner with someone. Her ex-husband gives her the documents requesting full custody of their kids, which Henrietta thinks is ridiculous. He then adds that maybe their kids don't want to see her because all she ever does is hurt them and herself. The two of them go outside the diner to argue even more when Jake tackles him to the ground. Henrietta immediately stops him while her ex-husband continues to insult her. His presence upsets Henrietta, so she pushes him away and almost drives away, leaving Jake alone. However, Jake says that he doesn't know his way back, so she has no choice but to take him along. By the time they reach home, Henrietta tells him to leave, but Jake just confronts her about keeping the truth from him. She then tells him the truth that she has an ex-husband and 2 kids. Jake mocks her and tells her that he would never betray his family, despite the awful things that happened during the war. Henrietta gets confused and asks him which war he is talking about. Jake tells her about World War III, which happened on December 11, 2002. She then realized that Jake is the kidnapped kid that the policeman told her about. She tries to tell Jake that his father kidnapped him and almost killed her mother, but Jake tells her that she's lying. Fed up, she grabs her things and tells him to go, as she has her problems to deal with. She unintentionally drops the missing person poster, which Jake immediately notices. He picks it up and recognizes that it is the man that his father had killed. He asks Henrietta how she knows the man, but she tells him to never come to her house again. Jake comes home with enlightenment and calls out Troy's lies. He also confronts him about the man he killed. Troy reasons that he's out there to kill them. However, Jake sees through his lie. Troy confronts Jake and asks who Henrietta is. Seeing that he is brokenhearted, he uses this to fuel his anger and continues with his plan to brainwash him. Eventually, he tells him that Henrietta needs to die because she had an idea about what they did to the man and instructs him that they would need to kill her and leave before nightfall. However, since he has grown to love her, Jake expresses that he cannot kill Henrietta and proposes a plan to make her join their side. Seeing that he is hopeless, Troy tricks Jake, traps him inside their supplies cabin, and tells him that he will clean up his mess. Meanwhile, Henrietta reports Jake's reaction to the flyers, but once again defends Jake when the policeman theorizes that he might be behind the disappearance of the man. He offers to escort her back home, and even though she refuses, 2 cops follow her behind. To her surprise, she sees Jake, who had successfully escaped the supplies cabin and is holding a gun towards the cops. Henrietta tried to calm him down by saying that they are cops and he needs to drop his gun. However, the situation worsens when his father, who is hiding in the woods, shoots a cop dead. Jake pulls Henrietta to hide while he looks for his father in the woods and finds him in an abandoned cabin. He tries to convince Troy that Henrietta is a good person, but Troy knocks him out. On her way back to her house, he gets caught by a trap, so he limps his way there. Meanwhile, Henrietta escapes and rides his car. Troy finds her and aims his gun at her. However, he fails to shoot her because Jake pushes him off the window and Troy gets impaled. He tells him that he loves him for one last time and gives him a key and a revolver to shoot him. After the incident, Henrietta decides to go back to her children, while Jake uses the key to open a box containing his mother's information and address. They both decide to start anew.